people you love, and love everybody alive. Love everybody alive. Love everybody alive. Thank you. Good to see you all, friends and comrades. My name is Carsey Blanton. I'm from Philly-ish. And Philly, what's up? Yeah. And I'm a musician, which means that I'm totally broke and deeply, deeply in debt. And I just found out the other day that the money we've spent on sending weapons to Ukraine this year would have funded the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, for 500 years. So I'm here as a music worker and as a socialist to say, end all wars and interventions. Mama, it's a disaster, going faster and faster, and all of my heroes turning out to be bastards. Ain't no peace to be found in this company town, 'cause the house will keep winning till we burn the house down. So all my friends in the streets tonight, we go singing. All my friends who are down and out, we gonna fight. Streets tonight, well, they call it a riot, 'cause we ain't keeping quiet. But if you've been listening, we know you don't buy it. And they say we've been stealing, but who's the real villain when we can't even make a living? They're out there making a killing. And all my friends in the streets tonight, we go singing. All my friends who are down and out, we gonna fight. All our friends in the up above, with all our rage and all our love, adding fuel to the fire down in the streets tonight. Well, they can lock us up and they can knock us down, but we're the ones who run this town. We're gonna shout it out till we make them face. We're the ones who own this place. They can lock us up and they can knock us down, but we're the ones who run this town. We're gonna shout it out till we make them face. We're the ones who own this place. So all my friends in the streets tonight, we go singing. All my friends who are down and out, we gonna fight. All our friends in the up above, with all our rage and all our love, adding fuel to the fire down in the streets tonight. Down in the streets tonight. Down in the streets tonight. Yeah! You do. You care a lot. Okay. Thanks. I'm glad I asked. All right, I want to try a brand new song about imperialism, honestly. Can you please get close and cozy with each other? Just scooch on in. And especially people that need to sit down, let's make sure they get a seat. So if you need to sit down, go up to a friendly face and say, "Can I squeeze in there with you, my dear friend?" Bring me a coat and a parlor guitar. Neon smoke coming up from the bar. I'm out on the roof with a couple of friends, watching the empire end. I guess America is coming untied. Half of my neighbors are living outside. Whoever don't break better learn how to bend. Watching the empire end. You've been throwing your weight around. Now you wonder why everybody wanna take you down. Every bully dreads the day they get their due. You're gonna get what's coming to you. 3 people dead at the Hard Rock Hotel. I heard a crack in the air when it fell. Neighborhood kids running down to attend, watching the empire end. Trash in the gutters and trash in the sea. Trash in the hearts of the powers that be. Freedom for all who've got money to spend. Watching the empire end. You've been throwing your weight around. Now you wonder why everybody wanna take you down. Every bully dreads the day to get their due. You're gonna get what's coming to you. What's coming to you? What's coming to you? You get what's coming to you. Good riddance, you. You get what's coming to you. What's coming to you? You get what's coming to you. I'm in the belly, but I ain't the beast. Like everyone else to the west and the east. They say we're enemies, but I know we'll be friends. After the empire ends. Oh, after the empire ends. Thank you.
How we doing? When I say people, you say power. People, people. When I say we want, you say freedom. We want, we want. All right, you sound good too. We did so good with the chanting and the marching. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is just the beginning, because when we go back to our houses, our places, our communities, we're going to take over our communities as well and let people know that we need to fight for peace. And we need to fight those that are holding our economy, our politics, our social life hostage. We got to free ourselves. Is that right? All right. So we have a next speaker who's going to be projected somewhere. And folks could also start going up to the balcony. You don't need to be standing around. There's space upstairs. So folks could usher you to where you need to go to be able to get upstairs. For many of us growing up, this man was a reference in relationship to what was going on in the world. So we want to show a short video from Noam Chomsky. Give it up for Noam. There are obviously people in our lifetime, in our world, that have fought for many decades. And we have to acknowledge those people. So we want to put up the projection. Ryan's going to help us with that.
With regard to the Ukraine conflict, let's begin with truism. The Russian invasion of Ukraine will be brought to an end in one of two ways, either by defeat of one side or by a diplomatic settlement. That much at least should be beyond debate. Well, let's turn to fact. The United States has a definite, explicit policy. Policy is formally to continue the war in order to severely weaken Russia. It's also claimed to place Ukraine in a stronger position for eventual negotiations, or in a weaker position. Strong likelihood that's quietly ignored. That's the position of the United States and Britain, some variation, their European allies. The rest of the world overwhelmingly is calling for a diplomatic settlement to end the horrors before they become even worse. And it will become worse. First of all, for Ukraine. It's already lost tens of thousands of soldiers, suffered severe economic damage. Severe, though it's worth remembering, nothing like the US-British shock and awe style of war, which goes straight for the jugular, demolishing energy, transportation, communication, anything that keeps society functioning. That no heads of state visited Baghdad while the United States and Britain were demolishing it. Well, the bitter costs of war are, of course, not limited to Ukraine and to the Russian invaders. Millions are facing starvation as grain, fertilizer supplies are curtailed from the rich Black Sea region. Food prices soar along with the profits of the handful of multinationals that dominate the food system. It's all too easy to envision steps up the escalation ladder to terminal nuclear war. Maybe most serious of all in the long term, the limited steps to address imminent environmental catastrophe have reversed, may turn out to be the death knell for organized human life on Earth. It's far too little discussed, but the US-British stance entails a ghastly gamble with the fate of Ukraine, far beyond. The gamble is that if the demented madman Putin faces defeat, he will quietly pack his bags, slink away to oblivion or worse, and will not use the conventional weapons that we all know he has to emulate the US and Britain, or Israel and Gaza, and devastate Ukraine, including Kiev and the western areas that have so far been mostly spared. A moment's thought should suffice to reveal how ghastly that gamble is. One can easily see why outside the little Western propaganda bubble, much of the world sees the war as a proxy war between the United States and Russia with Ukrainian bodies. Well, if Ukrainians choose to take the gamble, it's their business. But for the US to insist on it, blocking diplomacy, as it has been doing, so as to severely weaken Russia, that's very much our business.
How's the energy? How's the energy? You have to convince me otherwise. How's your energy? Good. That's better. We have a list of amazing speakers coming up. I have the pleasure of bringing up a comrade, a friend, someone who has been doing a lot of organizing work in New York City and around, all over actually. My Haitian sister, Kirby Joseph, from the Answer Coalition. Let's give it up for Kirby.
I told Eugene to hold my purse. That's what comrades do. How are we feeling? How are we doing? Who got the power? Who got the power? Whose power? Whose power? What kind of power? What kind of power? Okay. Can I ask y'all a few questions? Is that okay? Can I interrogate y'all for a little bit? Is that all right? Okay. We are here to demand an end to the U.S. war machine, right? We are here to demand an end to imperialism, right? We are here to demand peace everywhere, right? Is that right? Then family, can I call you that? Can we be family? If those are our demands, then we have to take the time to talk about the current political situation in Haiti. Because in coordination with Washington, Canada began a significant deployment into Haiti. A deployment that includes significant amount of weapons, significant amount of surveillance technology, and thousands of boots have been on the ground in Haiti for weeks. And this isn't the first time that Haiti has been invaded, whether it be overtly or covertly. Haiti has been invaded by imperialists since its revolution in 1804. Can we agree to that? Can we agree to that? Can we agree that U.S. slavery-owning classes threatened by Haiti's revolution chose to isolate Haiti economically and politically and refuse to acknowledge that she is free? Can we adhere to that? France, boo, agreed to recognize the Haitian Revolution in 1825, but then made them pay 150 million francs because they lost their property, i.e. black bodies. Faced with isolation, Haiti, the land that experienced torture, colonialism, and slavery, has been forced to pay, over the course of a century, $21 billion. A debt that the nation still cannot pay. Let me give you some numbers. Because of Haiti's revolutionary spirit, can we agree to that? Because Haiti dared to be free, can we agree to that? And because Haiti dared to win, can we agree to that? Haiti has experienced 2 coups, 3 dictators backed by the United States, 2 foreign military occupations, 4 fake elections since 2006, and 1 presidential assassination. On top of all of this, Haiti Haiti has an 80% unemployment rate, and 60% of the population lives on $2 American a day. A day. But we just left the Washington Post, right? Shame, boo. It's media outlets like the Post that will say that the reason why Haiti is in this condition is their fault, right? The reason why there has to be boots on the ground is because there's a gang issue. Is that true? Is that true? Is that true? In Haiti, every protest is considered an act of terrorism by law. So while workers are asking for their basic rights to exist, they're being called gang members. The struggle in Haiti is also a class issue. Can we agree to that? Because I want to give you some more history. Gangs were formed by the ruling class of Haiti to protect their property. You see, anyone can be considered a gang member when it comes to putting profit over people. I guess we're a whole bunch of gang members up in here. Because we're choosing to put people over profit. We're part of the people's gang, is that right? Okay. Oh, no, don't do gang, don't do that. The UN has introduced cholera into the country. Peacekeepers, UN peacekeepers, have committed acts of egregious violence all over the country. Acts of violence that still have no accountability. And yet there are 1,000 more of these so-called peacekeepers on the ground in Haiti right now, arresting people, destroying their homes, making people go missing. It is not the Haitian people that are committing these acts of violence. It's the UN solution in Haiti that is committing these acts of violence. And why? Because Haiti was the first black nation in the Western Hemisphere to be free. That is her crime. That is her crime. That is her crime. And destabilizing her and destabilizing Haiti is how they continue to make Haiti pay for fighting for its freedom. Haitians on the ground are demanding for us as workers, as radical people, as artists, as protesters here to uplift that they have self-determination. They are demanding for us to uplift the truth about Haiti. They want us to break our chains here. Haitians are watching us. They're rooting for us to end the war machine in the United States. Oh, okay. I want to leave with this. Can we break our chains? Can we break our chains? I want to teach y'all some Creole before I get off this mic, okay? There's a Haitian Creole saying that says, Kembela. Say it with me, Kembela. Say it. Kembela. That means hold on, hold tight, hang in there. Haitians want us to hold tight and hang into this struggle. Haitians want us to hold tight and hang on to resistance. Haitians want us to hold tight and fight for liberation. That is our work. Can we Kembela? Can we Kembela? One more time, Kembela. Thank you.
Ain't no power like the power of the people, because the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, because the power of the people don't say what? Say what? All right, y'all. I'm about to make an announcement that is only for the New Yorkers that came from the buses in Union Square or from the People's Forum. Don't nobody else get up and leave. buses are going to be on 12th and 1st Avenue. I hope I said that right. And folks are actually meeting outside New York Avenue. New York Avenue. And folks are meeting outside to be able to get on the bus. And so, again, that's for the New Yorkers that came. Union Square, TPF. Nobody else gets a pass. They have to. Oh, yeah. You want to do that? Folks. All right, if you hear me clap once, if you hear me clap twice, there's someone that's on the bus that has to speak. So y'all gonna give me a second.
Look, y'all got to stick with us here because we want to make sure everybody who did something to build this demonstration has the opportunity to speak. And we want to make sure that people don't have to go home before they have the opportunity to give you important information and critical information. So we're going to make a quick edit to the program here. I want to bring up the Comrade Yolian Ogbu to speak here on behalf of the people of Eritrea, the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. I know you got to go. Sorry, I was totally confused about the bus. So they said just try to stay behind this or get you on the live stream.
Okay, so sorry about the confusion. So I noticed that in the chants today, when we talked about economic warfare, like removing sanctions and talking about how sanctions kill, we mentioned Iran, Venezuela, Palestine. We mentioned so many of these other countries, but how many of y'all here have heard of Eritrea? Okay. That's great. Today I just wanted to talk briefly about why it's really important that we include Eritrea in that list as we advocate for the removal of sanctions and all U.S. and Western-led warfare. So first, I think it's important to note that the history of Eritrea and the Eritrean people's struggle is so important and often forgotten. When you look up or Google Eritrea today or tomorrow, you'll probably see maybe something by the Human Rights Watch or Amnesty International. But we know that those are what? Forms of soft power imperialism. So boo to that. Right. What you won't see are stories about our freedom fighters and EPLF, the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, who was a Marxist-Leninist group based off of collectivist values. We are a population of 3 million people, and we defeated Italian colonization, colonial occupation. Until today, since we got our independence in 1991, we have refused NGO presence, we have refused the IMF, we have refused the World Bank. We are one of the only African countries who refuse to have an AFRICOM base. So, why do you think we have sanctions slapped onto us today? Post-independence in 1991, after only a few years of getting to really revel in our independent nature, we were slapped on with sanctions. Why? Because we're a part of the war on terror. I guess we're terrorists because we want to exercise our independence, our right to self-determination, and our economic and political free will. I think it's important to note that the impact on sanctions in Eritrea are dire and vast. We are not only limited, similar to Cuba, in accessing basic necessary goods. We have to be honest, sanctions are a form of mass murder. The state of Eritrea is actively being targeted by the United States and the European Union for exercising our independence. They don't like that we are spreading the idea of self-reliance and anti-imperialism across the continent today. But despite resisting decades of destabilization efforts and economic warfare, we have continued to make strides to develop our country. I mean, compared to the US, we actually have equal pay. We actually have free education for all. We have free access to health care. We are creating a country and an egalitarian society for all Eritrean people, and we deserve to make light of this and create international solidarity so that all African people, all colonized people, all working class people have the same rights and can exercise the same independence as we do. And it's important to say, what is standing in the way of humanity? What is the antagonism of humanity? And that is capitalism, imperialism, and all other predatory formations that arise. So, free Eritrea. And I want to just end this real quick with saying, we have a very important saying that our freedom fighters had said as they spent 30 years in the struggle. And it's awet nahafash. Can y'all say it for me? Awet nahafash, okay? That means victory to the masses. Awet nahafash. Awet nahafash. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Lombardo. I'm the coordinator of the United National Anti-War Coalition. I want to tell you how beautiful you look down here, up there, but especially in the streets as we march today. It was a wonderful sight. We are the vanguard of a new anti-imperialist, anti-war movement that is coming together. Groups have come together to build this rally, and this is step one. We're going to go all the way, and we're going to stop imperialism. Just like the propaganda and censorship around this war in Ukraine has divided the left, has divided the anti-war movement, so did the censorship and the government's policies of not telling the truth about Syria divided the peace movement back then. But you know, there's lots of people in the Syrian community who protested anyway. I joined 1,000 members of the Syrian community in a march in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago to protest U.S. policy in Syria. Today we have with us Johnny Achi, who's from Syrians, Arab Americans for Syria. He's going to tell us what that struggle is about. He's going to tell us how we can all join together and build this movement for all of us.
I'll do my best to keep it short. All right, guys. We're here today carrying a new sign says, "End the siege on Syria." I don't have time. Yes, yes. It's no longer about sanctions. It's a siege now, and I'll get to that in a minute. I don't have time to tell you the story about Syria, but you probably have heard it, and this is the best crowd to know. This had been a regime change proxy war on Syria, and if you don't believe it by now, then just ask Seymour Hersh. Ask multiple people who, Hamad bin Jassim, and I need to tell you this because this just been out. Hamad bin Jassim was the prime minister and the foreign minister of that tiny little nation of Qatar that had a lot to do with the destruction of Libya and then Syria. He lost his job in 2013, like General Petraeus lost his job, like everybody lost his job. They couldn't not overturn the government. So he just came on RT and literally said in the first year alone, $2 trillion were spent to oust the Syrian government. $2 trillion paid for. We knew they were paying soldiers to defect so they can put them on the Jazeera. But I didn't know the lowest paid was $15,000, and if you're a tiny little ranked officer, $30,000, all the way to $1 million. $2 trillion were spent, in his own words, flooding weapons into Syria. He said Qatar and Saudi paid for it. Turkey got it into Syria with cooperation with the CIA. Weapons were flooding into Syria because they thought the biggest spray now is going to happen. Syria is the biggest spray. We all know General Wellesley Clark. Syrians know that interview by heart. When he said he went into the Pentagon and they told him we're going to attack 7 countries. You all know that, right? And that's 5 of them were already done. Iraq, Somalia, Sudan, Lebanon, destabilized. And finally we came to Libya, and it was supposed to be Syria, then Iran. Libya, just a few months earlier, they called it the pretext for Libya. Who remembers what the pretext for Libya? I know you all know about the pretext for Iraq. One for the incubators or the children, the babies out of the incubators. That's in 91. And then, obviously, the weapons of mass destruction. The Libyans was that Muammar Gaddafi, and this is what was discussed in the United Nations. I don't know what PR firm is advising this, but to build public opinion, Muammar Gaddafi gave Viagra to all his soldiers and told them, give them orders to go rape all the women in Libya. And because of that, we went and bombed this country, killed tens of thousands of people, and destroyed that country till today. This is one of the richest African countries per capita. So Syria knew it was coming. We didn't know, however, though, that it was coming also from our neighbors, the Gulf states. The Gulf state played a very dirty role in this war on Syria. The prey that they were fighting over, and that's Hamad bin Jassim finishing, he said, every nation knew that Syria is going to fall, so they wanted a piece of it. So the opposition started to have names of Paris opposition, London opposition, Istanbul oppositions, and we went to the peace conference or peace talks. Syrian government was not involved. It was all these oppositions from Doha, from Istanbul, and from Riyadh trying to divide, and at the same time they were sending weapons to their factions in Syria. And these factions end up fighting each other, and that's when they say, and the prey got away. We got away, yes, but we paid a heavy price. 100,000 Syrians from just the Syrian army were fighting mercenaries because Syrians refused to take a fight. They were living a great life. Ask any Syrian back in 2010. We were living a great life. We did not want that exported democracy and exported freedom that America was bringing to Iraq and Libya. We saw in our own eyes, and we dared to say no. We dared to say no. And sanctions were not new. Sanctions has been on Syria since 1979. 1979 sanctions, guys, because we dared to say no. We support the Palestinian freedom. We support the PLO. Till today, we believe in the free Palestine from the river to the sea. That is just us Syrian, and that's why we're paying all that price. In this earthquake, I need to talk quickly about the earthquake. Thousands lost their lives, but what was so painful for us, the same earthquake hit two countries. One country got all the help in the world, all the support and empathy, and the cradle of civilization got none. Biden couldn't even lift the sanctions for 1 week so we can get equipment. We took people out of we hurt people. People tell stories about we left them to die because we couldn't get them out because we were taking them out with our bare hands when we could have done better. But why aren't we now calling it a siege? Because the U.S. is occupying 1/3 of Syria where 2/3 of the resources are, the oil and the wheat. They're looting and stealing our oil and wheat, and the Syrians are left to die hungry. Syrians are asking for your help today. They're not asking for donations. They're not asking for handouts. They're asking you contact your representative and tell him, Biden, tear down that siege over Syria. Tear down those sanctions, illegal and inhumane sanctions over Syria. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Let's just give a round of applause for everyone that's still in this room right now. My name's Olivia Danucci. I am an organizer with Code Pink, and yeah, woo! And I am based here in Washington, D.C., belly of the beast, but also on stolen Piscataway and Nahotchunk land. A couple of our speakers today from Guam and Hawaii will be talking about some of the indigenous-led fight against the military bases and imperialism in their communities. And I also just want to draw those parallels to where we are right now. I also am so excited that we are here teaching each other, but sometimes a lot of this information are things that we know, and we really want to take this beyond the walls of this church and bring in more and more people. As we have seen funding communities, not war, and funding the people's needs, a lot of the people who have 2 or 3 jobs can't make it out to things like this. Or folks who are fighting for housing and against incarceration, all of these things can't make it out to here. So we really want to bring more people in and to talk with each other about how we can further take action leading up. So after this is all over, at 5 o'clock, we're going to be meeting at Busboys and Poets for people to talk about what we can do more. But please follow the organizations, Code Pink, Answer, People's Forum, PSL, and so many other ones that are in this room to really take action in the streets with us moving forward. So please give it up for that. I'm now here to introduce someone who came all the way from Guam, Nake Flores.
Half a day, everybody. Half a day, everybody. My name is Nake Flores, and I am a member of Protehi Latexan Save Retidian, and I flew 24 hours from Guam across the international date line to be here with you all today because what's happening in Guam is a very serious issue. So it's a day ahead in Guam, so I come from the future. I'm just kidding. So Guam is the southernmost island in the Marianas Archipelago, and all of the Marianas Islands are extremely vulnerable right now to war. If the United States enters into conflict with China, our islands will once again be forcefully occupied and destroyed by war. I don't know if many of you know that during World War II, our island was occupied by Japanese forces and then violently recaptured by the United States. Our island was carpet bombed, and we are still finding munitions from World War II all over the island, including land that's outside of the bases. We are looking at contamination from nuclear radiation fallout from the Marshall Islands. We are looking at Agent Orange contamination from the Vietnam War era. We are looking at PFAS and PFAS contamination right now. Every single well that the Navy has returned to our waterworks cannot be used because of PFAS contamination. They are poisoning us. They are desecrating our ancestral burials. They have taken away land after the war. My family lost hundreds of acres of land. So Chamorro families lost thousands of acres, including land at this ancient village, Latexan. So, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because my grandparents are survivors of the war. They were forced to march, they were forced to labor, they were put in camps, they were forced to watch people be murdered, and then their land was taken away. And this is a story that many of us share. And I can tell you that war is an evil you will never unsee. It'll pass through many, many generations in our own homelands. Our Native people make less than 40% of the population, but we are among the highest in incarcerations, in homelessness. We have serious issues of addiction, of sexual violence. We are the highest in all of the states and territories for these issues. And that all has to do with the continual violent colonization and militarization of our islands. Our indigenous Chamorro people have lived in the Marianas for over 3,500 years. And as Pacific people, we truly understand how vulnerable our waters, lands, and sacred sites are. Guam has a long history of environmental racism, which I just shared with you now. And our right to self-determination and decolonization has been stalled for over 125 years now with US occupation in Guam. The indigenous name of our island is Guahan. We have what we all have together, our land, our water. These are parts of our inherent rights gifted to us by our ancestors. And now we're fighting, we have 19 Superfund sites, 19 military Superfund sites on our island. I don't know if many of you know how small Guam is, but the military occupies 30% of our island. And far from being remedied, these harms are now aggravated by a massive military buildup and expansion of the US military footprint in Guam. They continue to violate our right to free and prior informed consent. And just like our brothers and sisters in Hawaii, we are also being priced out of our lands because of overseas housing allowance. We cannot afford to buy homes in our own homeland. So many of our people have to move away. It's almost like they want to wipe us off the face of the earth. And just recently, the Rear Admiral told us that many of the military lands that were set to be returned to the people as federally excess lands are now going to be held because they need them to build up the bases for the war with China. The injustice must end. And I'd like to end with this. Our land was created, our creation story were two brothers, or a brother and a sister. And when the brother was this ancient spirit, Ponten was going to go to the next realm, his sister Fortna took his eyes and made the sun and the moon, his eyebrows and made the rainbows, his back to make the land, his chest to make the sky. And Fona, when she was about to go to the next realm, turned her body into a rock and broke open, and the first people emerged and went into canoes to go all over the earth. So in essence, we are all lost Chamorros. We're all Tautautanu. We're all people of the land. And so I would also like to invite all of you. This was such a beautiful day, and we want to see some of you come to Guahan to stand in solidarity with us. We need you. We will be needing you because in the next year, the United States is bringing the Marines from Okinawa to Guam. They have cleared over 1,000 acres of limestone forest to build a new Marine base and a live fire training range complex where they will release 7 million ammunitions a year over our sole source aquifer that provides our island 80 to 90% of our fresh drinking water. They have applied to do open burning and open detonation on ancestral land and over our aquifer. They are poisoning our coastlines. Right now, our fisher folks are finding fish with tumors in them at contamination sites. And culturally, we do not waste the fish we catch, we eat them. So we are eating contaminated fish. It can go on and on, and I can go on and on and on. But I need you all to think about this. Really, we need you all to think about Guam, to think about Guahan, to think about the Marianas. Please don't forget us, and we need you to come and stand in solidarity with us. Sanamasi, decolonize Oceania, demilitarize Guam, demilitarize the Marianas, demilitarize the Pacific. Biba! Sanamasi, everybody.
The next person we're going to introduce is from the Odessa Solidarity Committee. But before that, I want to read a little message that was sent to us from some friends in Ukraine. Although you probably don't know, because the US media won't tell you this, that the majority of people who left Ukraine for another country as refugees to escape the war and the fighting have gone to Russia. Twice as many have gone to Russia as have gone to Poland, and just about as many that have gone to Russia have gone to all other European countries. But you won't learn that. In Russia, some of the people have put together, some of the Ukrainians have put together an organization, and they oppose the Kiev government, and they sent us a message. I'm only going to read a couple of lines of it because it's long, but it will go up online and you'll be able to see it. Dear comrades, the Union of Political Immigrants and Political Prisoners of Ukraine endorses your brave effort for peace in Ukraine. We wholeheartedly welcome and support the launch of a major campaign by the public of the United States and other countries for peace in Ukraine. In particular, we support your great event of March 18th. Our great and warmest wishes for success in your struggle, and with great wish for peace, the Union of Political Immigrants and Political Prisoners of Ukraine. The Odessa Solidarity Committee was formed before the most recent actions and fighting that have been going on in Ukraine to go to Odessa on May when the right-wing fascists burnt and killed about 50 people and wounded over 100 at the House of Trade Unions in Odessa. These people were protesting the coup that took place in 2014 in Kiev, and they were killed by these fascists that came from all over the country to Odessa to fight to do this. And so a number of us went to Odessa to support the people who each year come out and honor those that were killed in large numbers. Thousands of people come out, and the fascists mobilize to try to intimidate them in March. And we've seen both ends. Some of us have been there as international observers to protect them, and the Odessa Solidarity Movement was formed. Phil Walito is its chair. He is also the leader, one of the leaders of the Virginia Defenders for Freedom, Justice, and Equality, Phil Walito.
Yes. Okay. I understand they're going to cut the sound off on a very sharp schedule, so I'm going to make this quick. What you have heard about Ukraine, and I'm also going to time it because it's always the old white guys who talk too long. There we go. I've been to Ukraine. I've been to Odessa on the second anniversary of the Odessa massacre, where at least 42 people were killed when a mob led by openly fascist organizations drove them into the House of Trade Unions at Kulikovo Square in Odessa and set the building on fire. And the police stood by, and the Ukrainian government has never allowed an international investigation. And three of us went there from the US as part of a team of international observers, and when we came back, we formed the Odessa Solidarity Campaign, which you can read about at odessasolidarity.campaign.org. My point today was to try to tell you about the repression that has been taking place since the right-wing coup of 2014. And that was one of the three elements that led to the Russian intervention, along with the steady expansion of NATO and the attacks on the people in Donbass, who declared independence because they didn't want to live under a right-wing, anti-Russian, pro-fascist government. Since our visit to Odessa in May of 2016, thousands and thousands of people have been arrested, many of them simply for expressing opposition to the government on social media. An editor of a local newspaper, Yuri Chukov, who I met in Kulikovo Square, was arrested and charged with terrorism charges that are completely bogus, and I wish I had time to go into just explain to you. But we saw the fascist organizations, we saw the Azov Battalion, we saw the Right Sector, and these are the groups that came forward to fight the people in Donbass and are now being hailed as heroes, people who honor Stefan Banderas, the head of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, who collaborated with the Nazi occupation and is now a national hero with a stamp, a national stamp dedicated to his honor, and his birthday is a national holiday. Please, you're here today because you don't believe the lies, but we are going to try to keep pumping out information that you can find on Odessa Solidarity Campaign. We demand stop funding fascists in Ukraine. And please, before you leave, pick up a copy of our newspaper, The Virginia Defender, which has been coming out for 19 years with an all-volunteer staff out of Richmond. It has 2 pages on our experiences in Ukraine and the current repression that's going on. Thank you very much. Stay together, and we will win.
Before I introduce our next speaker, I just wanted to hold this up because unfortunately freedom is not free. We have to do what we have to do to make this possible. A lot of very generous people, put money forward to make it possible for us to be here today, to have this venue, to have these signs, to be able to have all the equipment we needed to live stream, to bring some people from different parts of the country who weren't able to make it because they're just working class folks trying to make ends meet. So as you can imagine, we need every dollar we can get, every quarter we can get, every $100 bill we can get, every $1,000 donation on Cash App we can get, every $2 that you might have, reach down underneath the lint. If it's more than 5 cents, I'll take 5 cents too. That's all right. We'll put it all together, and when we come together, we can actually make a huge difference. Everyone doesn't have to have a lot of money for us to come together and have a little bit of money. We're gonna have buckets coming through here. You'll see these buckets. I don't know exactly what's on this sign. You can see there's a QR code there. This might not even be close enough for you. For PayPal, there's a Cash App, $ No to War. We'll put this somewhere. I'll have somebody put this out, maybe on the way out or something like that, so that you can get this various piece. There's a phone number. You can text 202-953-3531. That's 202-953-3531. Please, please, please. There's buckets coming around. You are more than welcome. Thank you so much. There's a QR code, there's Cash App, there's the whole nine, but all your generosity is greatly appreciated. There is no, George Soros billionaire money, despite what you might read on the internet. It's just people like you, so we appreciate that 100%. So thank you, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here today, for sticking with us. I do want to bring up our next speaker, and we're very honored to have him here. We had Yoli on speak earlier. The Eritrean American community has been doing a lot to promote the work that we've been doing, around a lot of anti-imperialist issues, and really is a country that is truly targeted in the same way many of the other countries you've heard here are. And there are a lot of efforts going on to push back against the sanctions, to push back against the isolation. So from the Eritrean American Public Diplomacy Group, I want to bring up Emmanuel Biederman to say a few words, please.
Good afternoon. What are we here to say today? No more. No more to wars. No more to proxy wars. No more to wars of aggression. No more to sanctions. I am here after Yoliana earlier came out and told you how Eritrea succeeded, what Eritrea was able to achieve. I would like to tell you why Eritrea was able to achieve that. And in order to give you a brief, in order to give you an understanding why, I'm going to give you a little bit of history. When the United States first came to Africa, the first place that they came in is Eritrea. The war of aggression in Africa started in 1941 in Eritrea. And this is something that a lot of people may not know. And it continued until the Ethiopian government took over with the acquiescence of the United States in 1960 to annex Eritrea. The struggle for independence of Eritrea started in 1961. And the reason Eritrea was completely, didn't have a chance to survive at all. Eritrea was able to come to the level that it is today for one reason, and that is because of the people of Eritrea determined. They said one thing, Hafash yinkah yuwadda bita'ata, which means, Hafash means the masses. Yinkah means let it be informed, educated, and organized. Yuwadda means organized. And the Eritrean people were organized, and through that, they were armed, and they were able to persevere for 80 years, up until now. Even after independence in 1991, the United States, first with Bush, and after that with the Clinton administration, continued their proxy wars against Eritrea. Eritrea was sanctioned. And because we believed in that self-reliance, because we believed in the victory for the masses, because we believed in always being educated, being informed, organized, and being one. This is the only way we are going to be able to defeat anything that comes. We have to be informed what's going on. I can say a lot about everything that's happening right now and how it's impacting what Eritrea is doing. But what we went through is simply a miracle that we were able to achieve this, and that we are able to do it because we were united, organized, and we persevered. And this is what's being asked from every one of you here. Hafash, yinkah, yuwadda bita'ata. Victory to the masses.
As you know, in the next few days, it's the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. There's other anniversaries too. It's the 25th anniversary of the US bombing in Yugoslavia. It's also a very important anniversary because 20 years ago, our next speaker, who had been a colonel in the military and had been a diplomat, I think she was the under-ambassador to Outer Mongolia at the time, looked at what the United States did in invading and occupying Iraq and said, enough, and she quit. And since she's been an anti-war activist. This is Ann Wright.
Well, thank you. And yes, it is. 20 years ago today, I resigned from the stupid-ass government of the United States over the war on Iraq. And we have more stupid things our government's doing, lying us into wars, lying us into war on China, North Korea, all of these places that do not want to have a war with the United States, but the U.S. seems to want a war with them. And we are here to say no to war. No more war, we say. Let's have some money for the poor and not for war. Yeah. And I'd also like to make sure we remember those people that had helped get the word out, like Julian Assange, and thanks WikiLeaks. Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! And no more war! No more war! Thank you.
That was fast. What a legacy. Let's give it up for Ann again. Also, I wanted to clarify my announcement. It's K Street Busboys and Poets, because people were asking. So after this, please join us again. Someone who works very closely with Ann Wright in Hawaii is after the catastrophic naval fuel ships that leaked and poisoned the water of over 100,000 people, really making the intersections of the climate crisis, environmental degradation, and the war machine. And here to talk more about that, from Shutdown Red Hill Mutual Aid, is Mikey.
Aloha kako. I want to teach you something real quick. Ola I kawai. Yeah, that means water is life. So, ola I kawai. Yeah? So ready? Ola I kawai. Ola I kawai. All right, thanks. So my name is Mikey. I'm a Korean and Japanese settler in occupied Hawaii. I'm a water protector, and I'm so grateful to be with you all here today to tell you about a very special place on Oahu, the island where I was born and raised. It's a place called Kapukaki, otherwise known as Red Hill. Nearly 80 years ago, the US Navy constructed a massive underground facility in Red Hill, storing up to 250 million gallons of toxic fuel, sitting less than 100 feet above our sole source aquifer that provides water to nearly 500,000 people on the island. In 2021, the US Navy leaked over 19,000 gallons of JP5 jet fuel from the Red Hill facility and contaminated over 93,000 homes. Over the following weeks, the Navy lied over and over and over again to the thousands of people falling violently ill from the toxic exposure to jet fuel in their water. They lied to civilians, Native Hawaiians, and their own service people as children and babies screamed in pain through the night, their throats on fire, their tiny bodies covered from head to toe in sores and rashes. Our community did not take this neo-colonial violence lying down. We rose up as one to demand the US military shut down Red Hill immediately. And after just 3 months of concerted organization, mobilization, and agitation, we forced the Department of Defense to concede to our demands. We secured a commitment to shut down Red Hill. But our fight for our basic right to clean water continues. Over 1 year later, over 100 million gallons of toxic jet fuel still sit in these decrepit, leaking World War II era storage tanks. To make matters worse, the Navy recently spilled 1,300 gallons of AFFF concentrate from Red Hill. AFFF is a fire-suppressing foam containing enough of a forever chemical known as PFAS to contaminate tens of trillions of gallons of water for centuries. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, the shutdown Red Hill Mutual Aid Collective is distributing 300 cases of water to families still being poisoned by jet fuel contaminated water more than a year after the Hawaii State Department of Health declared the water was once again safe to drink. Now, some of you may be wondering, what does any of this have to do with Russia and Ukraine, right? The answer to that question is everything. Everything. The decisions made in DC directly impact the ongoing illegal US military occupation and active contamination of Hawaii's sovereign lands and waters. Every single one of those $113 billion in US aid going to fight the NATO-fueled proxy war with Russia and Ukraine is used to justify every acre of land and every gallon of water being actively contaminated by the US military on Oahu. The consent they manufacture here to fight the war over there maintains the illegal US occupation of Hawaii. But you need our military to keep you safe, they say, right? Don't you understand? Freedom isn't free, right? We're poisoning your children and contaminating your water to protect you from Russia and China. So it's like we're living in a horror movie where the capitalist class plays the role of our poorly disguised murderers. And just like in every slasher film, the true killers aren't separated by an ocean or a fence. The call is coming from inside the house. But I come to you today not as a victim crying out for help, but as a comrade in shared struggle against the common enemy. Yes, what happens here and in Ukraine affects what happens in Hawaii, but it's a two-way street. Our anti-imperialist struggle in Hawaii affects what happens in Soledar, in Bakhmut, in Severodonetsk, in Okinawa, in Guahan, in Gaza, in East Palestine, in Camp Lejeune, in Flint, Michigan, in Jackson, Mississippi, and in Washington, D.C. Our fight to protect Hawaii's water is your fight too, and our fight in your fight is ours, because an injury to one is an injury to all, and an injury to water is an injury to all of us, because we are water, and water is us. And just like the water we protect, we too are sacred. We too are worthy of protection. We are the water protecting itself. And when we join our waters together, we can turn a light rain into a torrential downpour. We can turn a tiny pond into a sea of solidarity. We can turn a small stream into a river of revolution. And when we join our waters together, that's when we'll finally achieve our collective liberation. And no dams, no enclosures, no weapons of war, no great power in the world, not even the US military, will be able to contain us. Ole kawai! We will end the proxy war in Ukraine. We will abolish NATO, and we will shut down Red Hill, because we are water, and water is life. Ole kawai.
We're moving along quickly, so we'll be done soon. Hope you can stay to the end. I had the privilege in October to be in a demonstration led by the Bronx Anti-War Coalition in the Bronx, New York. And I was really impressed with that demonstration because there were just a number of community groups that came forward and started making the connection between the struggles they have in the streets of the Bronx and the wars. And the person that main organizer of that demonstration from the Bronx Anti-War Coalition and from the International Action Center is Richie Marino, who's going to speak next.
Thank you, Joe. All right, so I want to start off by my favorite chant. How do you spell racist? N-A-T. How do you spell fascist? How do you spell terrorist? How do you spell terrorist? All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richie. As Joe said, I'm with the Bronx Anti-War Coalition. I'm also representing the International Action Center, United National Anti-War Coalition. I write for Workers' World, and I'm a member of Workers' World, and I'm also a proud public school teacher in the South Bronx. So, shout out to the teachers out there. So just days after the Biden administration proposed their egregious $900 billion military budget, the US Federal Reserve printed $300 billion to bail out 2 banks that were too big to fail. Let me be very clear. This is a bailout for the rich, a bailout for Silicon Valley tech companies, venture capital firms, and private equity. Boo! And at a time when we're struggling to pay for rent, groceries, gas, and energy bills, we need to start asking ourselves, when will we, the workers, get a bailout? When will we, the people of the South Bronx, of Flint, Michigan, of DC, of East Palestine, Ohio, get the funding that we deserve for quality education, safe transportation, guaranteed jobs with benefits, housing, clean air, and water? So if the US government can bail out billionaires and send $150 billion to fuel a proxy war in Ukraine, then they sure as hell can bail out the people. Do y'all agree? Yeah, that's right. So the US is also preparing for and provoking a hot war with China because China's peaceful economic rise is regarded as a threat to US global hegemony. Such a war has the potential to destroy humanity. China wants peace, they want cooperation, they want win-win development. China is not our enemy. Do y'all agree? Good. Our enemy is Western imperialism with NATO and the US government running the agenda. They use Russia and China as scapegoats to distract from their failures to provide us, the people, with the basic needs. Our enemies are the capitalist and imperialist warmongers in the US government whose only purpose is to guarantee the profits of Wall Street and the military-industrial complex through regime change and interventionist wars. So if y'all agree, I want to hear you make some noise. No more endless wars. Feed the people, not the US war machine. End the US NATO proxy war against Russia and the people of the Donbass. End US military provocations against China and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Lift the sanctions on Cuba, Syria, Iran, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Eritrea, Zimbabwe, and all nations and peoples exercising self-determination. Free Palestine. Defund the Pentagon, shut down all US military bases, and abolish NATO. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. I want to reiterate what he said, that China's not our enemy, but our common enemy is the climate crisis. And up next, we are going to have Teddy from Code Pink talk about those extremely stark intersections between anti-militarism and the climate crisis.
When I say no war, you say no warming. No war. No war. When I say decolonize, you say decarbonize. Decolonize. Decolonize. Recently, a new friend of mine asked what I do, and I answered. I said I work at the intersection of military and climate. And before I could ask what they do, they said, oh, well, what does military and climate have to do with each other? What does military have to do with climate? What do you think I said? Nothing, something, or everything. Nothing, something, or everything. The military has absolutely everything to do with the climate crisis. And as we fight for peace, we are fighting for a future on this planet. The capitalist and militarist system that we have been forced into, that we are fighting, is one that views our world and all the life on it, human, plant, and animal, as resources, not relatives. It's the other way around. Relatives, not resources. Relatives, not resources. It is not a coincidence that Cop City In Atlanta, boo. A $90 million training center to train up more killer cops across the United States will also be used to train Israeli IDF soldiers to enforce the occupation in Palestine. Boo. That is not a coincidence. That is by design. It is not a coincidence that over the course of the war in Ukraine, fossil fuel companies profited madly while they made consumers suffer and pay for it. Did you see those gas prices last year? They said that was simply because of the war in Ukraine. They were price gouging every single one of us. Is that right? And it's not a coincidence that after seeing those profits like a shark tasting blood, the Biden administration has signed the approval for the Willow Project. The Willow Project, the most massive oil and gas extraction project ever proposed on federal land, on indigenous land, and traditional hunting grounds in Alaska. It was just approved by this administration, this warmonger president, this dirty fuel president. It is not a coincidence that last year's military budget totaled $858 billion, 28 times what Biden managed to scrounge up for the climate. That is not a coincidence. So because we know war has everything to do with climate change, let's make it our job to uplift that. Our fight for peace is a fight for climate justice and vice versa. And because of that, as loud as we are, we need to get even louder. Because if we win, we won't just achieve peace. We will have made a significant dent in environmental injustice the world over. We just heard U.S. out of Guam, U.S. out of Guam, U.S. out of Guam, U.S. out of Guam. And we just heard from our friend from Oahu, where Red Hill continues to poison communities. U.S. out of Hawaii, U.S. out of Hawaii, U.S. out of Hawaii. Militarized police here in the United States are not keeping us safe. They're here to protect capital and property. That's it. That's the same with our military abroad. They are there for extraction purposes only. They do not keep us safe. And as if after today you need another reason to call for peace in Ukraine, the environmental catastrophes caused by this war are unprecedented. Farmland will not be arable for decades to come, and the fossil fuel emissions from the war alone is the same as if a new European, mid-sized European country had sprouted up out of nowhere and began emitting fossil fuels. Shame, that's right. So 1 month from now, about a month from now, it's going to be Earth Day. And on Earth Day, I hope everyone in this room can bring a message of peace to climate actions, because we need to cut the lifeblood of the war machine. We need to end fossil fuel use and extraction the world over. Our lives, all of our lives depend on it, both at the site of extraction and colonialism, and because the climate crisis faces all of us in the near term. So I want to say money for climate and education, not for war and occupation. Thank you all so much for being here.
Well, we only have 3 more quick speakers. We asked them to be very quick. The next person is Wyatt Miller. Wyatt is from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, and he's also a member of the Administrative Committee of UNAC.
Long live international solidarity! Long live! Long live! So my name's Wyatt Miller. As Joe said, I'm here representing Freedom Road Socialist Organization. I'm also with the UNAC AC. I'm also here from Minneapolis, where I organize with a group called the Minnesota Anti-War Committee, where we've been organizing and saying no to the U.S.-NATO proxy war against Russia, which uses Ukraine as its battlefield and Ukrainians as its cannon fodder since day one. In the FRSO, we believe the U.S. empire is enemy number 1 to the people of the world who wish to live their lives in peace, with dignity, and free of economic and military domination. Don't let the unprecedented military spending fool you. This U.S. imperialist system is in decline. Is that good? Yes, exactly. But that's why we're seeing the U.S. imperialist system lash out so recklessly against China, against Russia, and all of its other targets, as these contradictions in the world economy and in the imperial system sharpen. So we need to stop it once and for all, and sooner rather than later, so that it doesn't drag the rest of us and the whole world down with it. Thanks. People in the United States have every reason to stand up against U.S. wars. I'm a maintenance worker myself, and I have more in common with the workers around the world than I do with the capitalists and the compradors who create these wars while treating us like shit. And likewise, there are oppressed nations within U.S. borders, and the enemy they face in their struggles for liberation are the same enemies that nations like Palestine, Venezuela, Cuba, the Philippines, Syria, and so on all face, because that enemy is U.S. imperialism. As I said, I'm from Minneapolis. In 2020, after the police murder of George Floyd, we saw just a small glimpse of the power of the people when we stand up together against our common enemies. For a miraculous few days, the rulers of the city, the police, even the National Guard, were utterly powerless. And that tinderbox of ungovernable, multiracial rage at the system is still burning all over this country, and the anti-war movement needs to join with it and help it strengthen and grow in order to actually, finally, bring down U.S. imperialism. And now is the time to build that movement, because no politicians are coming to save us, not the Democrats, certainly not the Republicans like Trump or DeSantis, or some of the other right-wing forces who claim to be against war with Russia but then turn around and vilify and attack socialist China, and now are saying that they want to invade Mexico. So, we think that we need to be working shoulder to shoulder with people in our communities, not only against U.S. wars, but against all the injustices and oppression we face, and not only for the occasional big protests like today, but through all the ups and downs of local movements. It's that kind of sustained, boots-on-the-ground organizing work in the community is the only way that we develop the ties and trust that we need, and to build the united front we need to finally bring the system down. There is only one solution: revolution, revolution. There is only one solution: revolution, revolution. There is only one solution. And I just want to do a really quick plug to Alex Saab, the Venezuelan diplomat who was illegally kidnapped by the United States and is being held in a Miami prison where he's being tortured for over 100 days. Free Alex Saab! Free Alex Saab! Free Alex Saab! Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As we wrap up, I want to acknowledge all the people in the room who've been doing this for decades, but also the people who are newer to the movement, younger folks, students, and those are who are going to talk with us next. We have a couple people from the dissenters, which if you don't know about dissenters, they're going to talk to you more about it. So Jelena and crew coming up here from the GW dissenters.
Hi everyone, good to see everyone here. Like Olivia said, we are student organizers with Dissenters, which is a new youth anti-war, is this better? Okay. Dissenters, which is a new youth anti-war, anti-militarist organization, which is led by, we're, like this? Okay, cool. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna start over. Hi everyone, we are student organizers with Dissenters, which is a new youth anti-war, anti-militarist organization that is led by young queer people of color. We'd like to share a little bit about us and about the, okay, thank you. We'd like to share a little bit about us and about the gathering that is happening next Friday through Sunday right here in DC. So we're currently active on college campuses around the country. We both go to school in this area right next to the State Department, right next to the White House, and close to the headquarters of weapons manufacturers like Lockheed Martin. We've seen firsthand how our classmates are directly funneled into the war machine, whether that be working for a weapons manufacturer or working for a think tank that normalizes war through false intellectualism. We've also seen how many of our professors regurgitate imperialist propaganda as truth. Shame. We know that the war machine preys on young people, especially young people of color, and we're here to say, fuck that. So right now we're organizing to push our colleges to cut ties with the war machine. That's looked like pushing our schools to divest from weapons manufacturers, disrupting CIA recruitment events, doing political education, confronting the board of trustees at our schools, and more. If you're between the ages of 18 to 35, we wanted to let you know that next week from Friday to Sunday, right here in DC, we will be having an East Coast and South regional gathering. This will be 3 days of anti-militarist organizing, training, community building, music, and food. If you know anyone who'd be interested, please let them know, and then Marcos is gonna share how you can sign up.
If you're interested, you can find more info on our Instagram page at We Are Dissenters, and we also have a Twitter with the same handle at We Are Dissenters. That's at WeAreDissenters. We Are Dissenters. Or you can come to talk to one of us afterwards. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, our next speaker, I said he was the last, and I just found out I lied. But I'm going to introduce Lee Soo-hin. He's someone who just flew back from China, where he spends a lot of his time. He's the head of the China-USA Solidarity Committee. He works with the Sanctions Kill Committee. And he is one of the authors of a new book that just came out on sanctions that is getting real big play in China, in Nicaragua, and in other places. So I'm going to introduce Lee Soo-hin.
Thank you for staying. Everyone stay until the last. My name is Lee Soo-hin, Li Xiaoxuan. I flew back from China yesterday. Thank you for the organizer inviting me to coming to the event. So I live in Los Angeles. I also work in China, flew back and both in this US and China. When they have the protest here today, I dropped my work and come back immediately. And I also thank you, the organizer. Even I'm the last person that put me to the last, I can have a chance to talk because I want to say, repeat after me, no war on China. US out of Guam. US out of Korea. No more arms to Ukraine. So, why I'm here today? Because I work in activism circle in China and in US. I was a national coordinator for the National Immigrant Solidarity Network. I've been working on the immigrants' worker rights for 30 years. I also was the former sweatshop workers in Los Angeles. The sanction is a racist. Same thing as the anti-immigrant movement and the police brutality, because what they are doing is to push every people of color to the knees that they need to submit and obey to the white people and imperialists and the racism. That's how they using the sanction around the world, because they want to push everyone to the need, every country to the need to submit to the US white imperialism. That's what they're doing from Iraq to Palestine to Cuba. Then now they want to do my country in China. Whoa! They can maybe move around, push around small country in Middle East or Central America. They've been trying crazy like what happened in Ukraine. They also want to dare to do to my country in China. That's not going to happen because there's solidarity movement between U.S., China, and around the world to stop the war. Say no again. No war to China. No war to China. But many people in China, and they didn't know there's an anti-war movement. And when I talk to them before I come into the trip, there's an anti-war movement will be against U.S. war to China. They don't believe that. I tell them it do exist. So this is the reason I today coming back to want to show to everyone in China that do exist. The solidarity movement around the world can work together. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yes. One more thing. I asked them to bring a gift from China, a solidarity gift. They made a documentary called Vaccines and Sanctions just released last week. And you can see on the YouTube. And please see it. It's about book about the sanctions and also the point from China about the anti-imperialism. Thank you so much.
All the way from China. Give it up one more time. I want to bring up our final speaker here this evening, someone who I've had the privilege of working very closely with for, I don't know, it seems like it's been a long time, but really just a couple years against the US-backed proxy war in Ethiopia, Hermela Awagawi from the No More Global Movement, and also of Hermela TV on YouTube.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hermela Awagawi. I am a former mainstream media reporter, most recently working for the CBS affiliate in Los Angeles. I left because of the way the war in Ethiopia was being reported for the last 2 years. I was absolutely appalled by the sloppy journalism and outright propaganda as Ethiopia, along with its ally, Eritrea, you heard from a couple people from there, they were fighting what you might call insurgents who were leading a 27-year regime and then tried to come back using a war. And the US backed them through all the propaganda outlets, the outlets that we refer to as mainstream media. And it really sent me in a completely different trajectory because I knew that mainstream media was problematic, but I just didn't know how far it would go to back a war. But you guys do, because it wasn't the first time, and it may not be the last. So I would just encourage all of you to remember Africa in your work, because it is one of the most exploited, if not the most exploited part of the world, and the people need your voice. After this US-backed proxy war in Ethiopia, just as Ethiopia and Eritrea were defeating this group, the US literally flew them on military planes out of the region where they were fighting and then forced a peace deal that saved them. So Ethiopia is still dealing with this group. The idea of justice continues to be elusive for countries like Ethiopia and across the African continent because of the US's unnecessary interventions, both military as well as economic war and sanctions. So thank you guys for taking the time to be here today. It's always really heartening. You know, some people might think that these efforts are radical, but we've tried the conventional way. We tried talking to Congress people for the 2-year war. We tried to explain to them what was going on, and they pretended to not have the capacity to understand. So I believe in what's going on here. I believe in the idea of funding people's needs, not the war machine. It's really, really basic. As someone who's covered the issues domestically, homeless issues, horrible public schools, addiction, mental health, jobs, then the pandemic, all of that. I have seen the way that mainstream media operates actually maintains the status quo, and the status quo is not even just keeping things the same. When you don't do something about it, they just continue to get worse. And so life has gotten really difficult in the United States. And so keep doing what you're doing. I'm really inspired by it. And as Eugene mentioned earlier, I have gone independent. And so we need your support. So follow me on YouTube at Hermela TV. Become a member of my Patreon also at Hermela TV. And help us and Answer Coalition and Breakthrough News and PSL continue to do the work that they do. Thank you so much.
All right, how y'all feeling? Okay, well, that is going to more or less bring us to a close here today. But one thing that I do want to mention that will be on the live stream, because we're going to have to leave out of here today, but we did have 2 videos that came to us from Judge Julie Tang and Judge Lillian Singh, important leaders of the Chinese American community in San Francisco who sent us videos. That's going to be on the live stream, so you have the opportunity to go back and you can look that and see that. And I really encourage you to do that from the organization Pivot to Peace. And I also want to mention, many people here undoubtedly saw a few weeks back 50,000 people in front of the Brandenburg Gate for Peace in the city of Berlin. And I want to note that Savim Dagdalin, who is a minister of parliament in Germany, who is a member of the Die Linke Party, who is one of the organizers of that demonstration, has sent us a solidarity message here today. We're going to also put this up on our website so you can read the whole thing, but just to say a little bit to give you a flavor of what she had to say. George W. Bush, the 43rd president of the United States, is a war criminal, and it is a disgrace that he has gone unpunished to this day. This madness must be stopped. We are on a dangerous slide into the Third World War. The Reaper incident over the Black Sea shows once again how deeply the West is already involved in the war in Ukraine. And it shows also how great the danger of further escalation is, whether intended or unintended. When will this madness finally end? Those who commit war crimes belong in prison, not those who expose war crimes. So we call on President Biden here today, end the persecution of Julian Assange and stop your war in Europe. George Bush on trial now. And again, that's Minister Savim Dagdalin from Germany, and we thank the minister for her message and also supporting us all day on social media. So give yourselves a round of applause for being here since early this morning, for coming all across this country. I want to also give a round of applause for the nearly 300 organizations that helped put this together. I want to thank Joe Lombardo from the United National Anti-War Coalition, Olivia from Code Pink, Claudia from the People's Forum. I'm Eugene Puryear for the Answer Coalition. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the streets next time.
Is the sound off? Just for those who wanted, it's the Busboys and Poets on K Street. People are just gathering there. It's pay what you can, but if people need a place, Busboys and Poets on K Street.
Someone left a camera lens in a camera bag. If you've lost a camera lens, it's up here.
I'm Julie Tang, retired judge of the San Francisco Superior Court. Today, I join with a majority of Americans to demand the United States President and Congress negotiate for an end to the war in Ukraine as soon as possible and stop sending weapons to Ukraine. We demand an end to death, destruction, and suffering to our fellow human beings anywhere in the world. While we're sending money and weapons across the Atlantic so Ukraine can fight a proxy war for us, the United States is already beating the war drums in the Pacific, surrounding China with 400 military bases and 130,000 troops. Biden just signed an agreement to arm Australia with nuclear-powered submarines for use to stalk and menace the China seas. Notwithstanding, China is Australia's largest trading partner and has never threatened Australia. Japan, which has still not apologized or paid reparations for the atrocities committed in Asia during World War II, is now the unofficial head of a tri-military force that includes South Korea and the Philippines in a reciprocal maritime security cooperation pact aimed at China. Today, Ukraine, tomorrow, Taiwan. The US current military strategy in the Pacific is to prevent the peaceful reunification of China and Taiwan at any and all costs. Biden agreed to sell bombs to be mined in the beaches of Taiwan in case of a China attack and arm Taiwan with weapons. Taiwan is preparing to lower the enlistment age for boys to 16 years, again in an imaginary war with China. Never mind, Taiwan is a small island just 100 miles off China that has been part of China since the Ming Dynasty in 1600. And the US recognizes this historical fact and formally recognized there is but one China. But politics trumps the law. No wonder the Native Americans say the white men speak with a forked tongue. So true. Those of us from the Asian community have an even greater urgency for peace. Since the United States started a Cold War against China, Asian Americans have seen their lives upended by racism and hate. Asian people have been murdered, Asian children bullied and assaulted, Asian businesses vandalized, and Chinese American scientists persecuted as China's spies. Chinese Americans high-tech workers lost their jobs because the United States banned them from working for China. And in every Chinese family who lives in the big cities, our personal safety is a constant concern for ourselves and our children. And if war breaks out in the China seas, guess who will be the first to take the fall in the United States? We have to speak up for peace and not leave it for others. We need new leadership in our country that prioritizes domestic needs over foreign intervention. We need leadership that works towards peace and prosperity and listen to the 99% and not the 1% American elites. Right now, as people are dying in Ukraine, we need leaders who will help us engage in intelligent diplomacy and end the war. These are the people we will support as leaders of our country. Let's join hands and say, no more war. Thank you very much.
Sue.
I am Lillian Singh, retired judge from San Francisco Superior Court. I was born in China and raised in the United States and understand the importance of U.S.-China friendship. United States and China enjoyed 40 years of good relationship after the signing of the Shanghai Communique. Nothing has changed to make China become the United States' #1 enemy today. China is not the United States' #1 enemy. The United States needs to stop its fear-mongering of China and work with China to achieve peace, especially today, peace in Ukraine. War is terrible. War is horrible, especially for women and children. The United Nations and international aid agencies say women and children are among the worst victims of war. Every day, we see the war casualties in Ukraine, and we see firsthand how women and children suffer. We have to work towards peace and not war. The United States needs to stop its warmongering and use its power to bring parties together to achieve peace negotiations in Ukraine. In a war, there's no winner. Everyone suffers. Everyone loses. Let's bring a stop to this Ukraine war. Let's bring a stop to all wars. We need peace and not war. Thank you.